The Galactic Threat. In the vast expanse of the galaxy, the Galactic Council had long reigned supreme. Comprised of the most advanced and powerful civilizations, the Council had maintained peace and order for eons. Their technology was unrivaled, their wisdom unquestioned, and their authority absolute. But now, an ancient enemy had awakened from the depths of space. This foe was no ordinary adversary. It was a force of pure destruction, bent on consuming everything in its path. The Council had faced many challenges before, but nothing like this. The enemy's ships were massive, organic monstrosities that pulsed with an eerie, sickly light. Their weapons defied comprehension, ripping through the Council's defenses like they were made of paper. The Council's most advanced ships, pride of countless worlds, were torn apart effortlessly. In battle after battle, the Council found itself pushed back, their strategies and tactics proving woefully ineffective. The enemy adapted and evolved at a terrifying rate, seemingly anticipating every move the Council made. Panic began to spread through the ranks as the realization set in. They were losing. As world after world fell to the enemy's relentless advance, the Council grew desperate. They convened emergency meetings, scouring ancient archives for any scrap of knowledge that might turn the tide. But no matter what they tried, no matter what ancient weapons they unleashed or what brilliant minds they consulted, nothing seemed to make a difference. In their darkest hour, the Council's gaze fell upon an unlikely prospect: humanity. The humans were a young species, only recently having ventured into the stars. Their technology was primitive compared to the Council's, their ships small and insignificant. But there were whispers of human tenacity, of their refusal to yield in the face of overwhelming odds. Some even spoke of a strange, almost irrational bravery that bordered on madness. The humans, it was said, simply did not know when to give up. The decision to reach out to humanity was not made lightly. Many on the Council scoffed at the idea, seeing it as a sign of how far they had fallen. But others argued that they had no choice. In a war that threatened the very existence of life in the galaxy, no potential ally could be overlooked. And so, a message was sent to Earth, a plea for aid wrapped in the cold language of necessity. The Council did not beg, for such was beneath their dignity, but the urgency in their words was clear. The humans, for their part, did not hesitate. Though they knew little of the conflict that raged across the stars, they understood the stakes. If the Galactic Council fell, it would only be a matter of time before the enemy turned its gaze upon Earth. As humanity prepared its fleet, the Council watched with a mixture of apprehension and disdain. To them, the human ships were a ragtag collection of vessels, hardly worthy of being called a fleet. But the humans had answered their call, and in these desperate times, that was enough. Little did the Council know that this dismissive attitude would soon be shattered. For the humans, unbound by centuries of tradition and convention, were about to show the galaxy the true meaning of ingenuity and courage in the face of annihilation. The stage was set for a confrontation that would echo through the ages. The mighty Galactic Council, humbled and brought low, turning to the upstart humans in their hour of need, and the humans rising to meet a challenge that threatened to consume the very stars themselves. In the void of space, a reckoning was coming, and the galaxy would never be the same. Humanity enters the fray. As the human fleet emerged from the swirling vortexes of hyperspace, the Galactic Council watched with bated breath. The humans had responded to their call, but the Council had little faith in their ability to make a difference. To them, the human ships looked fragile and insignificant against the backdrop of the enemy's monstrous vessels. The human fleet was a diverse assortment of ships, each bearing the markings of a different nation or corporation. There were sleek, angular vessels that looked more like works of art than weapons of war, and bulky, utilitarian ships bristling with gun turrets and missile pods. Some bore the scars of previous battles, their hulls pitted and scorched, while others gleamed with the polish of fresh construction. As the humans took their positions alongside the remnants of the Council's once mighty armada, the differences between the two forces could not have been starker. The Council's ships were uniform in design, every vessel a perfect replica of its class, honed over centuries of refinement. The human ships, by contrast, were a riot of individuality, each one unique and bearing the unmistakable mark of human ingenuity. On the bridge of the Council's flagship, the atmosphere was tense. The Council members, each representing a different species, watched the human fleet with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. To them, the humans were an unknown quantity, a wild card in a game where the stakes could not be higher. "They are so primitive," one council member remarked, his voice dripping with disdain. "What can they possibly hope to achieve against an enemy that has brought us to our knees?" "We have no choice," another replied, her tone grim. "We have exhausted every other option. If the humans can buy us even a little time, it will be worth it." As the council members debated, the human commanders were busy preparing their ships and crews for the coming battle. Unlike the council, they had no illusions about the scale of the challenge they faced. They knew that they were outmatched and outgunned, but they also knew that surrender was not an option. In the heart of the human fleet, on the bridge of the flagship, the human admiral stood tall and resolute. She was a veteran of countless battles, her uniform adorned with the ribbons and medals of a lifetime of service. As she looked out at the assembled ships, a fierce pride swelled in her chest. These were her people, drawn from every corner of Earth, united in a common cause. They had come knowing the risks, knowing that they might never see their homes again. But they had come all the same, because they understood that some things were worth fighting for, even dying for. As the enemy fleet loomed on the horizon, the admiral's eyes narrowed. She had studied the reports, seen the footage of the devastation the enemy had wrought. She knew that conventional tactics would not suffice against such a foe. But the admiral also knew something else, something the council had failed to grasp. Humanity, for all its flaws and divisions, had a remarkable capacity for adaptation and innovation in the face of adversity. When pushed to the brink, humans had a way of finding solutions where none seemed to exist. And so, as the battle drew near, the admiral stood tall, her voice ringing out across the fleet. "This is it," she said, her words filled with a quiet intensity. "This is the moment we've trained for, the moment we've dreamed of. Out there is an enemy that thinks it knows the limits of what is possible. Today, we show them how wrong they are. Today, we show them what humanity is capable of. Today, we make history." As the human fleet surged forward, engines roaring and weapons primed, the Galactic Council could only watch in stunned silence. They had dismissed the humans as primitives, as cannon fodder in a war beyond their understanding. But in that moment, as the first shots were fired and the battle was joined, a flicker of doubt began to grow in the minds of the council members. Perhaps, just perhaps, they had underestimated these curious, tenacious creatures from a small blue world on the edge of the galaxy. Perhaps, in the crucible of war, the humans would forge a legend that would endure long after the last shot was fired and the last ship had fallen silent. Only time would tell. But one thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same again. The tide turns. As the battle raged across the stars, the Galactic Council could only watch in stunned disbelief as the human fleet began to turn the tide. The tactics employed by the human commanders were unlike anything the Council had ever seen. They were unorthodox, unpredictable, and utterly fearless. Where the Council's ships engaged the enemy in neat, orderly formations, the humans swarmed like angry bees, darting in and out of the fray with dizzying speed. Their ships, while smaller and less powerful than the Council's, were incredibly maneuverable and resilient. The enemy, used to the predictable strategies of the Council, found itself confounded by the humans' guerrilla tactics. One moment, the human ships would be directly engaging the enemy, trading blows at point-blank range. The next, they would be gone, vanished into the chaos of the battle, only to reappear behind the enemy lines, striking at vulnerable points with surgical precision. But it wasn't just their tactics that set the humans apart. It was their technology too. The Council had long assumed that human tech was primitive and inferior, but they were quickly realizing how wrong they had been. The human ships were equipped with weapons and defenses that the Council had never encountered before. There were electromagnetic pulse cannons that could fry an enemy ship's electronics with a single shot, and adaptive shielding that could morph and change to deflect incoming fire. Some ships even had the ability to project holographic decoys, tricking the enemy into wasting precious shots on illusory targets. In the heart of the battle, the Admiral stood tall and proud, her eyes shining with fierce joy. She had known all along that her people had it in them, that they possessed a spirit and a determination that could overcome any odds. And now, as she watched her fleet press its advantage, as she saw the enemy's ships blinking out of existence one by one, she felt a great sense of pride and vindication. The Galactic Council had doubted them, had dismissed them as primitives and savages. But here, in the crucible of war, the humans had proven their worth. They had shown the galaxy what they were made of, and nothing would ever be the same again. As the battle neared its end, as the last enemy ships fled into the darkness of space, a great cheer went up from the human fleet. It was a sound of triumph, of relief, and of unbridled joy. They had done it. Against all odds, they had prevailed, and in doing so, they had forged a legend that would endure for generations to come. The legend of the humans, the upstarts from a small blue world who had stood against the darkness and emerged victorious. The legend of a people who had looked into the face of annihilation and refused to blink. It was a legend that would inspire and uplift, a beacon of hope in a galaxy that had known far too much darkness. And it was a legend that was only just beginning. A new era dawns. In the aftermath of the great battle, the galaxy was a changed place. The enemy, once thought unstoppable, had been defeated, driven back into the depths of space from whence they came. And the architects of that defeat, the unlikeliest of heroes, were the humans. Across the galaxy, news of the humans' triumph spread like wildfire. On every world, in every corner of the cosmos, people spoke of the courage and ingenuity of these brave warriors from Earth. They marveled at the stories of their unconventional tactics, their indomitable spirit, and their refusal to yield in the face of overwhelming odds. For the Galactic Council, it was a humbling moment. They had long seen themselves as the guardians of peace and order in the galaxy, the wise and benevolent rulers who held the fate of billions in their hands. But now, they had to confront the reality that they had been saved, not by their own strength and wisdom, but by the courage and determination of a species they had long dismissed as inferior. In the grand halls of the Council's headquarters, the mood was somber and reflective. The Council members, once so proud and assured, now found themselves grappling with a new reality. "We were wrong," one of them said, his voice heavy with emotion. "We underestimated the humans, and in doing so, we nearly doomed the galaxy. But we have been given a second chance," another replied, her eyes shining with newfound respect. "A chance to learn from our mistakes, to forge a new path forward." And forge a new path they did. In the days and weeks that followed, the Council reached out to the humans, not as rulers, but as equals. They offered their gratitude and their respect, and they asked for the humans' help in rebuilding what had been lost. The humans, for their part, were gracious in victory. They did not seek to lord their triumph over the Council, or to exploit their newfound position of strength. Instead, they offered their friendship and their support, their knowledge and their skills. Together, the humans and the Council set about the task of healing the wounds of war, of rebuilding the shattered worlds and the broken lives left in the wake of the enemy's onslaught. It was a monumental undertaking, one that would take years, perhaps even generations. But they were not daunted, for they had seen the worst the galaxy had to offer, and they had emerged stronger for it. They had learned that true strength lay not in the might of their weapons or the vastness of their fleets, but in the courage and compassion of those who wielded them. As the years passed, a new era dawned across the galaxy. It was an era of cooperation and mutual respect, of exploration and discovery. The humans and the Council worked side by side, their differences no longer a source of division, but of strength. They ventured out into the stars, seeking out new worlds and new civilizations. They encountered wonders and horrors beyond imagining, but they faced them together, united by a bond that had been forged in the crucible of war. And at the center of it all, a shining beacon of hope and inspiration, were the humans. The once dismissed upstarts who had risen to the challenge of destiny and emerged victorious. The heroes who had shown the galaxy the true meaning of courage and determination. Their legend grew with each passing year, a testament to the indomitable spirit of a people who had refused to be defined by their limitations. They had reached for the stars, and in doing so, they had touched the very fabric of the universe itself. And so, as the galaxy moved forward into a new and uncertain future, one thing was clear: the era of the humans had begun, and nothing would ever be the same again. It was a future full of promise and possibility, of challenges and triumphs yet to come. But whatever lay ahead, the humans would face it as they always had, with courage, with determination, and with an unshakable belief in the power of the human spirit. For they were the guardians of the galaxy now, the protectors of all that was good and right in the universe, and they would never, ever back down.